Welcome to the Retirement Architect, David Reyes. Our program is designed to not only provide insight, but to educate and to give you the tools you need to help you design and build a rock-solid retirement.
How you doing, David Reyes? Happy weekend. Seems like it's been a while. Maybe it has. I'm not sure, but good to be with you today. Today I'm going to devote the show a little differently. I want to talk. I was just giving a talk this week. We do a lot of work through a company called SOFA, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. And basically what we do, it's a Society for Financial Awareness, and we educate employees of major companies on, smart retirement, smart investing, different types of investments, all kinds of stuff, Social Security. And so we just got done doing a workshop, and one of the things I focused on that I do quite a bit, that I help my own clients with and prospective clients, is fees. And fees are one of the things we actually can control more than we think we can. And I always say there's two things that hurt retirement portfolios, and one is fees, because costs will drag down the rate of return, and taxes. So as an advisor, I focus on both of those because those are two sunk costs that I can actually help to increase rates of return, which gives you more money in retirement. So as I was talking to this audience here this last week about kind of some of the pitfalls of investing, and one was fees. So I showed them a chart of fees. Let's say you invested $100,000 in 1999. And from 1999 to 2013, that $100,000 would have turned into $150,000. And that's with no fees. So that's just like the index. There was no fees charged. Well, let's just say that you had paid 1% fee. Well, it would cost you $21,000 over that 14-year period. Let's say you paid 2% in fees. It's almost $40,000. And the 3% fees, which most of you are paying in that range, whether you know it or not, it's 55% of your total return. So that $150,000 that you made gross, you netted $95,000. I know it sounds outrageous, but it's the truth. So one of the big things we do is what's called we do a risk analysis for clients. We also do a fee analysis. And typically when we do this type of analysis, we're looking at what are the external fees of a mutual fund, what are the internal costs, what are the trading costs. There's a series of about 3 or 4 different fees that we look at. We can actually tear apart the fund and actually do this for you. And what we want to do is say, is there other investment alternatives besides mutual funds that we can use to reduce cost? So we do that for clients. We can use individual stocks. We can use exchange-traded funds, which have much, much lower fees. So as part of our second opinions, if you want to reach out to me and talk to me specifically about fees, but as part of our second opinion, I will break down the cost of your investments. You will do a risk assessment for you. We'll actually do a written plan for you if you go through our 3-meeting process that we charge you nothing for. I always promise you're going to learn something if you go through it, and hopefully you become a client if that works out. But give me a call, 1-800-611-1967. That's 1-800-611-1967. Or go to reyesplan.com. That's REYESplan.com. So I came across this article at Barron's, and it was very appropriate. And I've never seen something broken down this well. And it's actually on the, let me see what the date is. I think it was last month. It was during the month of July. I think it was a week or two ago. And the title of it is Pay to Play by Mutual Fund Companies and Brokerages is Hurting Investors. So kind of you ever felt like you're being taken advantage or something you just don't know? And they're talking about Morgan Stanley in this particular case, or multiple different. I'm not picking on Morgan Stanley. They're one that's specifically written about in this. And so basically what the article is saying, it's a whole cover story. If you get a chance to read it. Again, it's called Pay to Play by Mutual Fund Companies and Brokerages is Hurting Investors, and Here's How. I'm going to share this with you because this is devastating to your investments. It just isn't. It's just sad that this goes on. We talk a lot about being a fiduciary and looking out for your client's best interest. And it's hard to do that when you see these certain types of arrangements that these large brokerage firms have with mutual fund companies. So what happens is it'd be kind of like you're going shopping. This would be the best analogy. You're going shopping and you're going down the aisle and you're going to get some breakfast cereal, get Cheerios, right? Well, how would you like to know, what if Cheerios had to pay had to pay, I don't know, whatever supermarket you want to talk about, Ralph's or Vaughn's. Let's say they had to pay this exorbitant fee to be able to be that Cheerios be on the rack there. And if they didn't pay the fee, then they couldn't be there. And worse than that, let's just say there was a better brand than Cheerios that was better for you. It was less expensive, but they wouldn't pay the fee that Ralph's wanted. Would that upset you? Absolutely. Because let me see, I could pay less fees. I could get a better product. Well, that's what's going on at these big brokerage houses. Unless you're willing to pay significant fees. In fact, let me see this here, what the exact number was, and I'll explain to you how this works. So last year, let's see, where is that massive number? So all told, these fees that these mutual fund companies, big companies, because it's only the big companies that they put on their platform. So if you want shelf space, so to speak, just like a grocery store, there's shelf space that is created for mutual fund companies at big brokerage firms, but in order to get on the platform, get on that grocery aisle, you have to pay a lot of money to be there. So what that does, it's a conflict of interest. So the only way you can get on that Morgan Stanley platform is if you pay. So guess what that costs? That costs you, the consumer, a lot more money. In fact, according to this Barron's article, and I got to make sure, according to Barron's, because I don't want to get sued by Morgan Stanley and bashing them, but this is just a fact. I'm reading from Barron's. You can do it yourself. And it says, all told, fees amounted to at least $28.6 million to Morgan Stanley from mutual fund companies. I mean, it's outrageous. So there's great firms on there. There's great mutual fund companies, investment companies that won't be on there. And I talk to them sometimes, and they say, well, David, we couldn't get on these big platforms, so we have to be on the discount brokerage firms. They're on the platforms that we're on because as a registered investment advisory firm, we don't work with the big wirehouse companies, the big brokerage firms like a Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley. And so what happens is they actually have internal costs. I'll give you an example. So it's called revenue sharing. And let me give you an exact example. So let's see. Some firms also pay Fidelity what's called a setup fee or infrastructure fee of about 0.005%. They also pay Schwab up to 0.4% and 0.1% for transaction fees. So think of it this way. Just think if the fund is paying Schwab almost 0.5% just to be on the platform. Who do you think's paying for that? You are. So it's pretty bad. And the regulators, they're trying to make this best interest and everybody in the same playing field as far as advisors and brokerage firms, and it just seems like it's never going to happen. The SEC is making some changes, but the problem is this should not be legal. They should not be able to be able to have to make these mutual fund companies pay these exorbitant fees, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. All told, $28 million that Morgan Stanley received to put these funds that are costing you more money on their platform. So if you want me to look at the fees you're paying in your investments, I promise I can show you how to pay a lot less fees. And fees cost us more money. Costs us more money, reduces our rate of return, costs us lifestyle. Less money to have less income, to have less fun. So give me a call, and I'll do a complimentary second opinion for you. We'll do a fee analysis, see what you're paying in fees. Most of you have no idea what you're paying in fees. I will say the average cost for mutual funds that I see for clients when we break them down is about 2.5%. That's a lot. So we'll look at other alternatives besides that. We'll also do a complimentary retirement income plan for you. We'll do a risk assessment. Most of you taking on way, way, way more risk than you think. I was sitting down with a prospective client who became a client, and he wants to retire in the next 2 years, and we ran a risk assessment on his portfolio. And if we had another recession, he'd lose about 50% of the value of his portfolio, and he wants to retire in 2 years. Needless to say, he hired me, and we totally shifted the portfolio and reduced the risk significantly. And, oh, by the way, reduced his fees, cut him about in half. So if you want to reach out to me and get a complimentary second opinion, just give us a call, 1-800-611-1967. That's 1-800-611-1967. Or go to reyesplan.com. That's REYES plan.com. Let me give you an example, talking about fees and talking about there's some great fund companies that are out there that you don't get access to, that we do, because we're not relying. I don't work for Morgan Stanley. So there's one fund. It's called the Yachman Fund. It's been around forever. It's a small mutual fund, but it's one of the best ever as far as a growth fund. So this year, it's beating its peers by 97% of the time. It's beating its peers. It's up 29%, beating the stock market by 9%. Here's the problem. This fund only has $257 million in assets. It's a small fund. So guess what? It can't afford to pay all these fees to Morgan Stanley, to these big brokerage firms. They also require these firms to pay for marketing events, for different types of workshops, anywhere from $2 to $3 to $4 to $500,000 as sponsors. So again, if you want to learn how to reduce your fees in your portfolio, reduce your risk, just give me a call, 1-800-611-1967. That's 1-800-611-1967, or go to reyesplan.com. That's REYES plan.com, and get your complimentary second opinion. Now, hang on. I want to talk a little bit about dividend stocks. I want to talk about ways to really reduce your fees and kind of bypass all these fees you see with these mutual fund companies. So hang on. This is David Reyes, your retirement architect.